People who actually make decent money from a side hustle. What do you do and how did you get into it? Bartending. One open shift per week works out to be about $400 $500 by the end of the month. Tips and paycheck combined. Co-workers are happy to give up shifts if I need more hours. No late nights are a plus as well. I used to bartend weddings back in college. Easiest money I've ever made in my life. Show up for 6 hours, pour beers and mix drinks and wine and shoot the crap with people. Walk away with over $500 every time. Made paying bills as a poor college kid a lot easier. This was a while ago, but I used to play my violin in popular tourist areas. Just really simple stuff. I could realistically cycle through 4 songs and no one would know. I made anywhere from $50 to $80 an hour, but my peak season was around the holidays where I averaged $100 an hour. Why did I quit, you may ask? To get a grown-up job making minimum wage. I used to 3D model furniture and houses, texture them, and sell them on Second Life. I made anywhere from $100 to $4,000 doing this every month. Stopped doing it because I was getting burned out working 16 hours a day between it and my full-time job and school and life. But it paid for a lot of things I wouldn't have had otherwise. I got into it by trying Second Life and basically realizing I could make money by doing a thing I already knew how to do. I work as a tour guide on the weekends. If you live in a big city, there are tourists who would love to be shown the best local spots. People are usually friendly and tip on vacation. Make about $40 an hour part-time with tips. Ever see a marching band at halftime? Someone has to arrange that music and design their drill, especially the competitive groups. What started as a design side gig in 2012 while I was in grad school grew a little every year. Since then, I've had the opportunity to work with thousands of kids and all sorts of great staffs in 2 countries and more than a dozen states. Always said once that income topped my teacher's salary, I'd quit. In March, I filed as an LLC with the state of Texas, became official with the IRS and tendered my end-of-year resignation. I always wondered how people got into arranging music for marching band shows. I've recorded my own brass arrangements and have been told more than a few times that I would be perfect for DCI, but I don't have the slightest idea how to get into that scene. More my wife than me, but furniture restoration refurbishment. My wife has a color eye and can pick the good stuff out of an estate sale or garage sale. She upholsters old chairs and sofas. I do the woodwork and refinishing on cabinets, desks, chairs. We can sell most pieces for triple what we paid, and materials aren't that expensive. We got into it just as a fun project outfitting a new apartment. We posted some pictures on social media and had enough people asking for commission work that we started doing it more regularly. I wish we still did commission work, because we can charge more for it, but these days we're mostly flipping estate sale finds on Craigslist. Upholstery is where it's at. Anyone thinks they can buy a sideboard and use some chalk paint nowadays, but upholstery is still an art that is freaking difficult to master and makes it super in demand. Plus it's hard to find someone to teach you. I'm self-taught, but I still suck. Getting better though slowly. I have several. I sell hot dogs on the street corner. Literally, outside of a bar and at special events like car shows, festivals, etc. Make more in 5 hours than my wife does all week. I worked an event where I was the only food vendor and sold $570 worth of stuff in about 5 hours. Netted about $500. I sell kettle corn. And worked an event selling regular standard popcorn at a $1 a bag and mad $450 in 4 hours. I also have an online bookstore on Amazon that brings in a few $100 a month in passive income after I do all the work of sending the books in. I retired from the army after 20 years and work full-time for a defense contractor. I went to school with a kid whose parents bought him and his little brother a hot dog stand for a summer job. He had a spot that capitalized on people stuck in traffic, and with 2 of them they could run dogs out to stopped cars. The money they made was insane. I'm a musician. I have been my entire life. I lived the poor, starving original musician stereotype for several years. I wrote a few albums, played out a lot, but I never hit the big time. So later in life, my travels eventually led to my beautiful wife and back home to where I grew up so I could raise a family of my own. I fell back in with a group of musicians I knew growing up and joined their cover band. Turns out, cover bands are really lucrative. Lots of people want to see and dance to their favorite songs played live, but the bands are no longer together, or don't tour where they live, etc. So long story short, I'm doing better in the cover band than I ever did, struggling to stand out from the gaggle of original musicians. Sometimes you find what you're looking for in the place you least expect. Man, I joined one for shoots and giggles and it's surprising how much I make a month playing disco. Photo restoration. It has almost replaced my full-time job. There are Australian boomers clinging onto history. My clients range from 50-90 years old. Easy money. There is the upfront cost of a decent copy station, computer and printer, but at this point the upfront costs are 6 weeks worth of work. High school tutoring. I graduated with pretty good grades, so I tutor high school kids in maths, chem and physics. I get paid $50 an hour. Do like 9 sessions a week, so it's an easy $450 a week extra. I'm an undergrad student, so it's pretty handy. I work at a grocery store on weekends. I had been with the company since I was 16, so I'm at the pay cap for the job class, $14 an hour. It's only on Saturdays, but after tax I'm still getting like $60 to $100 a week depending on how long the shift is. When I started my actual career I just changed my availability with the grocery store to 1 day a week and I have never regretted it. Added bonus. The grocery store chain is privately owned by the employees, so the longer I'm there the more private stock I get. Currently sitting on $20,000 in shares that I get whenever I do decide to quit. And the more days I put in, the more shares I get. Wow, the share benefit alone is awesome. A cool $20K when you quit your 1 day a week grocery store job sounds so ridiculous in a good way. I'm the official photographer for a non-profit and make anywhere from $150, $300 a gig. Since the work is pretty low stress, it's pretty easy money. I also enjoy what the non-profit does and who they represent, which is a huge plus. Your work is like gold for the non-profit field. Nice. HQ Pictures is such an enormous aspect of running successful fundraisers and raising awareness. I help out with court report proofreading. I've always been a quick reader, so I can read 100 pages easily throughout a day while I'm at school or my other job. I get paid anywhere from $0.30 to $0.50 cents per page, so throughout a week I can pick up an extra $250 or so. It's nice and really low stress. Every summer me and 3 other dudes had an under the table demo crew. All of us had trucks and access to a couple trailers to haul everything. We'd strip all the copper, sturdy 2x4s sheet metal, anything of value before we went to work on the rest of the house. We worked so cheap all the contractors would hire us and we'd just make the profit off the tear out by selling it back to scab contractors looking to charge customers full material price. One particular house had beautiful maintained cedar board and backer all the way around along with 2 huge cherry fireplace mantles. We pulled every nail staple as careful as possible and sold it for an easy $3 grand for a couple hours of work. I ran an online game server, which eventually made me more money than my primary job. It lasted a few years. Then I spent time mining cryptocurrencies at its infancy. Did okay, and then all my stuff got stolen. I walk dogs on demand with WAG. You wear the gear and put the bandana on the dog and get an extra buck. I get tips occasionally as well. When I was a student back in Japan, I accidentally stumbled upon some stuffs that people everywhere else apparently pay for. Event pamphlets, little demo CDs, movies tickets, along with digital codes that come with it, and various other things. Well, long story short, I was able to make $4,000 a month for 3-4 months straight. Got myself a nice camera for my desired job and last year of school. Bouncing. About 100 plus a night. Can't drink on the job, so save money on alcohol. By accident, someone said, hey, you should bounce here, and here I am. The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. Their bottoms are made out of springs. They're bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, punky, fun, 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 fun. I buy really large popsicles and then melt them into smaller popsicles and sell them as singles. Then I collect the sticks out of the nearby garbage and sell them to craft stores. Charging. You sly fox. I helped my friend host an event when I was unemployed in '09. It was very successful and we steadily grew from 1 event per year to 3 big events, with 5-6 smaller events every year. It provides a nice steady side stream and has helped me get ahead. I'm a social worker with a full-time job, but I do on-call crisis assessments at the local hospital 8 days or so a month. I normally work overnight shifts but don't always get called. If someone comes into the acting a little off or saying they're suicidal, I get called in to see if they need inpatient hospitalization. Basically, do they meet criteria? I make $4 an hour to do nothing, but each time I go in and see someone I make $75. I've easily made $300 plus a night, though. I've also gone a few days without making anything. I normally make between $500 and $1,200 a month extra, and could make more if I wanted to pick up more hours. I write romance novels and self-publish them. It's not my side hustle, and hasn't been for a long time. But for people who don't want to do it for a living, you can still make some cash. It largely just depends on how much you're willing to put into it, how good you are at cover design, whether you hit the right niche, and how lucky you are. Sometimes books bomb, and that is disheartening. That's cool. Writing is something I've always been interested in, but it's hard to dedicate the time to getting stuff on paper and also to have the balls to put yourself out there, as you say. It can obviously be disheartening. No writer has all their work praised though, so I wouldn't be too disheartened if anything bombs. I draw fan art and sell it in the form of posters, pinned stickers on Etsy, and at anime and comic conventions at the Artist Alley. My busiest month I made $1,000 from it. I build guitar pedals. You can create a $200 pedal for under $40. I'm a synth player and a computer engineer, barely a guitarist. Got my first in March, but I like effects modules like pedals and rack stuff. I of course don't make a living off of this, as people like to trust the name brands, so I sell custom one-offs to friends and people in the business for the income it takes to fund my own pedal board. It takes some electronics knowledge and definitely soldering skills, but there are kits you can get that utilize basically just soldering. RDA Pedals has the deeds. Guitarist here. I think that's a great idea. Wish I could hear your product. It would be cool to have something so unique if the sound was something I liked. Delivery driving for Grubhub, Uber Eats, Postmates type apps. I picked it up as an extra way to make money because you can do it at any time you want, and as a college student I wouldn't schedule myself too much at my other part-time job in case I needed extra time for an assignment or something. I end up making $20 an hour on average. I quit my other part-time job even though I was in a management position, and just deliver food whenever I need a little extra spending money. Super flexible, no boss, and I get to drive around listening to music and podcasts all day. Heck, Grubhub even tells you what the customer tips you ahead of time, so I get to pick and choose what I even deliver and ignore crappy tippers. Awesome gig. I teach English online to children in China. I met someone who does this as means to travel while I was traveling and it sounded decent. Now I am going back to graduate school. I make about $1,200 a month working 2 hours in the morning with curriculum provided by the organization. If you are interested in joining, message me and I can send you a referral link. I believe you get booked faster if you come from a referral. I can help you out. This guy I'm working with is always coming up with an angle. He loves to fish and desired a way to monetize his fun. Now he sells fish $30 per fish to this sushi place. It's not even saltwater fish. We live in Indiana. He was also one of those Facebook vote swindlers, trading votes back and forth with a group of people to win those contests that used to be hosted all the time. He also dabbled in buying tax sale properties and selling them back to the original owners for $20K. And now the part that I really hate. He was caught cheating at cards in the lunchroom for $5 pots. Butthole was hiding cards up his sleeve. Oh, and he's the only person that I know to get caught by DNR for poaching not once, but twice. Poached deer and fishing. This dang no one is supposed to fish. Our base hourly pay is over $35. So cheating at cards on a Sunday automatic double time. Just showed me that he always has an angle. He always wanted to raise buy-ins. Frick poachers. I tutor math and chemistry. I study engineering full-time. I also work 23 HRWK as an advisor at a local credit union for my regular job. It's not insane money by any means, but I can charge up to $25 HR for private tutoring sessions. I also do Skype tutoring as well. You actually don't charge that much. At my uni, the master's students in the chem department charge $40.60/hour and people actually hire them. I have a super casual gig at an IV infusion spa. People come in, pick out whatever fancy nonsense bag of fluids and additives they want. I stick them and hang the bag. That's all. $35 an hour. But it's very low-key, low effort. I study a lot. Sometimes I take naps in the rooms when it's really slow. It's all anti-gravity recliners and spa music and waterfalls. A friend of mine with a similar mind for side hustles got me into it. I'm a critical care nurse, but they hire paramedics too. Fetish art. I work in healthcare, but I've always had an interest in art. Started drawing, and people would commission lots of bondage artwork along with other fetishes. Easy couple of $100 a week and I get to practice drawing. Of course there are some really odd requests, but you can just ignore those. That makes sense. Anyone who wants really specific pieces of art online tends to pay well. I had a little side hustle where I contacted Amazon sellers to give away a bunch of their product in exchange for reviews. Then I made a Facebook group for people who wanted to review things in exchange for free product. I made $3 per review and most sellers wanted at least 200 reviews. So that's $600 for a day's work of telling other people to do stuff. I usually contacted multiple sellers a day, so I had 5 or so items a day that needed 100 plus reviews. Web design. And by that I mean I set up WordPress sites, slap a template on it and plug in the info. It usually takes about 4 hours, so I spread it out over a couple weeks to make this seem like I'm working harder than I am. A monkey could do it. I charge a minimum $1K per site depending on the complexity and how much upkeep it might require, and then charge hourly for updates. I actually despise the work, but who can say no to $250 an hour? I keep trying to quit, but building one site usually leads to doing 2 more by word of mouth. It sounds like I'm making bank, but I'm not. It's great money for the time you put in, but I'm only doing around 10 sites, or less, a year. I've also been fiddling with this on the side for close to a decade, so I am fast. Don't expect to crank out your first site in 4 hours. My first one took me months while I learned how to do it. My inbox is full of people asking me how to find clients. I'm no expert, but here's my response pasted from below. 100% word of mouth. I made a bunch of my own websites first, then made one for a business I worked for a few years back. Then the referrals just started floating in and I've had 1 or 2 sites on the go ever since. Local businesses are very connected to each other and the owners refer people for all kinds of things. It helps that I live in a small town and am one of the only web designers around. I am also a go-to kinda guy for tech stuff and am very connected to my community. I volunteer a lot. I'm in community theater. I make a point to talk to people everywhere I go, etc. If you're not already a connected person, it could be an uphill climb. I can't help you in the area of marketing yourself online. I would never even bother given the amount of competition out there. IRL is where it's at for the side hustle. When I was in college, I worked 30 hours a week at a sporting goods store and was officially promoted to an assistant store manager due to my work ethic. I was always the guy picking up shifts when people called out. Anyways, I was also in a fraternity and played club soccer. I lived with a bunch of my soccer teammates, and after one day of us not being able to find any weed, I said frick it and called my buddy from high school. In HS he was the biggest weed dealer and used to move some pretty serious weight. Called him up. Told him I wanted in and he fronted me my first 2 ounces. Once all my soccer buddies and fraternity buddies I knew found out I was doing it, it was like clockwork. It got to the point where I considered scaling back working at the sporting goods store because I would miss opportunities to make sales by being at work. I never brought or did a transaction at work. I choose not to though. Nice part was that every person I sold to, I knew on a personal level, and I never sold to friend of a friend. I wouldn't even let someone bring a friend with them to pick up. If I knew you from the fraternity or soccer, or the random handful of classmates I befriended, then it had to be them and them only grabbing it. All in all, I once counted in a semester how much money I made, and it was in the ballpark of $4,000, $5,000. For a college kid, that is a lot of extra spending cash. Plus I had my regular full-time job. Of course I bought a new TV for my college room, a PS4, and a couple other things, but I mostly used the money to put towards drinking nice liquor. Like instead of buying crappy vodka, I'd tell my buddies I'll buy us a bottle of Grey Goose, or I would spend it on concert tickets for me and a few friends. I tried to be like Robin Hood. Yeah, I made some profit, but I tried to spend it on things that me and my friends could enjoy. This is one of the only times I've read a story about someone dealing and making stupid money without it ending in them being caught. Guess most people who don't get caught don't talk about it though. I was unemployed one winter, enjoying being in the EI snowboarding team. I sharpened knives for restaurants and chef friends. My neighbor was the chef at a popular pub in town. Their chefs had no time to sharpen their general use knives. Once a month for 5 months I made $150 from the pub, plus other people's knives, which was great for groceries and beer money. The pub's knives took 2.5 hours give or take. I maintain a solar monitoring station. Get paid to show up, clean and document my steps, and rinse and repeat the next week. Thanks, Craigslist. I'm an artist. A few months ago I was making an extra $200 from doing art commissions alongside my normal paycheck. Could have been way more if I charged more. Business slowed down though. That's the way it goes, I guess. Art commission jobs tend to increase around bigger holidays and special events from what I've noticed. It might be slow now, but there's a chance that in 6 months, it'll pick up again as more and more artists get booked. Even people whose job is making art experience these lulls and look forward to events in their area bringing in tourists. When I was doing my master's back in 1999, a friend wanted to do a web survey for part of her thesis data collection but couldn't find a tool that met her needs. So a buddy and I wrote her one. Instead of hard coding the question elements, we wrote an ASP script for dynamically rendering a few basic question types, and a web interface for creating and editing questions, all stored in an Access DB. Should note, if it's not obvious already, that neither of us knew crap about coding. Not long after graduating with 6-figure loans, Buddy met an exec with a healthcare group needing a web tool to test clinical prioritization protocols with a group of doctors, and somehow we blagged into a contract. Ended up doing around 5 days work each doing some extra development, then 1-2 weekends once a year when they updated that year's test protocols. Made around $20k a year each for around 9 years, putting most of it straight into paying off my loans. TLDR. Built a low-tech web survey tool and scored a healthcare contract. 4 days a year for $20k per. Consulting on machine learning projects for smaller companies. I make twice as much from half the work than at my regular 9-5 data science job for a big corporation. Not really a side hustle because it's only twice a year, but on election days, my county needs people to come in and attend to the polls. It's easy to volunteer and they'll give you a decent check for a day's work. That's not volunteering, lol. Trailer and boat wiring. So many people don't understand electricity or just don't want to do the work. Every spring I make a lot of cash from installing new fish finders, trolling motors, radios, lights, or installing electric brakes on trailers or rewiring for old cracked insulation. I make right at about $15,000 a year on a rental property that I haven't seen in 2 years. I bought the house to live in 3 years ago and took a job back in Nashville shortly after. I moved out. The renting family moved in. They take care of all maintenance and their money is automatically deposited in my rental bank account each month. My loan payment is auto-drafted from the same account. I have literally done nothing in 2 years and haven't touched the account. I'm a freelance cartographer and data analyst. I started as an undergrad and basically grew my business by word of mouth. Being friendly, detail-oriented, and responsive to feedback are important parts of succeeding in freelance work. Also, be sure to draw up contracts with your clients. keep detailed records of work completed, and provide invoices promptly. In the past year, I've made about $7,000 from this work. I think the blue part is land. I do wedding hair makeup on the weekends. I work in IT as my day job. It started when I was in high school and decided to attend the vocational school for cosmetology. I always intended for it to be a means for me to pay my way through college. I achieved that without having to take out any student loans. Also, I've had a child and bought a home with little to no financial hardship at a relatively young age. I couldn't have planned it better. I basically led a double income life and still have all my evenings open for relaxing fun. I bootleg wine and beer from France to the UK. I buy it in Calais, but I take the risk of bringing it across the border getting caught. If I get caught, I go on a blacklist and they take it off me. But if I don't, I double my money. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.